You ever feel like your kick drum sounds weak no matter what plugin you throw at it? Most producers waste time with compression or distortion when the real fix is much simpler. Today I'm going to show you the 5 magic EQ frequencies that pros use to instantly dial in weight, punch, and clarity. And once you know these, you'll never be stuck wondering why your kick doesn't hit again. But why listen to me? Well,
I've toured 33 countries, had multiple #1s on Beatport, signed hundreds of records to the world's top labels like Armada, Spinnin', Toolroom, Defected, as Bassclef and Analog Soul. And since 2016, I've been helping producers like you finish great songs fast and get a pro sound.
All right, let's jump right into it. I've got a few kicks loaded up here in this demo project and a few EQs. Let's see what it sounds like with it on. Here when I switched it off, the kick really brought out a lot of that kind of slap in the attack of it, and it lost a lot of its sort of roundness and low end. It wasn't feeling like it had that low end power that we're looking for. I'll do it again. So this is such an easy adjustment, and there's these 5 frequencies or main areas I want to show you, and I'm using them on this setting and on all these kicks. We're going to kick it off down here, going from left to right with 50 Hertz. Now this is the sub of your kick drum. A good way to remember this is it's kind of like when you feel the bass rise up beneath your feet in a club. That kind of feeling where it's almost below you and it's rising up and almost floating on this cloud of bass. That's 50 Hertz. This is also going to be the fundamental of where your kick lives. This is where most of its low-end energy is. Your kick should be generally for 4/4 music living around about 50 Hertz. So bringing this up and down really affects the overall sub feel. Let's hear that. You'll notice I'm doing this with a low shelf, and I have my bandwidth set to slightly more sharp at 1. Next frequency on the list is 100 Hertz, which interestingly is 1 octave above 50 Hertz. Now this spot I like to describe as the low thump or low chesty thump of your kick drum. You can remember this one where it's kind of like when you're in the club and you feel the kick actually hitting you, not rising up beneath your feet, but actually hitting you in the chest. And it almost sounds a bit like if you thump your chest. It's got that kind of a sound to it. This is how you can remember. So this really helps with the low end punch of your kick drum, having enough of this in there. And if your kick is too punchy, you might need to cut some there as well too. Let's hear what it sounds like. You can really tell so much of the meat of the kick is living there, separate from the sub. Now we're going to move up a little bit higher to this area, around 500 Hertz. This is what I would call the knocky or boxiness kind of area of your kick drum. Now this could extend anywhere really from 400 up to 700, but very often I find it's around about 500. This tends to sound a little bit like as if you're knocking on a door, that kind of knocking on wood sort of sound. And you occasionally get kicks that have much too much of this. Sometimes it's more acceptable in hip hop than it is in say house and 4 to the floor music. It's just whatever's going to fit your song and your mix. But let's boost it and cut it and hear what it sounds like. Hear how it's kind of like you're knocking on a door. So this is a great one to check as well too, whether you have too much of this or not enough again. And on that note, keep in mind, you don't always need to make an adjustment at these frequencies. They're just places to look if you're not sure. And they're great characteristics of a kick drum for you to remember and keep in mind as you're listening, because they're kind of like pivotal points to adjust to shape the kick drum. So not every kick needs EQ, but when it does, often it is one of these frequencies. Now keep in mind with that knocky boxy area around 500, often you might notice this a little easier when listening at quieter volumes. Now continuing up the frequency spectrum, we're going to hit what I call the attack and punch area. This is roughly around 2.5 kilohertz. We could say it extends from 1K to 5K. We'll call the middle 2.5. So yeah, this really dictates the kind of attack and punch of the kick drum. Not so much the low punch, but the punch you hear rather than the punch you feel, the transient punch. Let's hear it. Really noticeable, huh? This kick in particular has quite a bit of it. It has quite a few things in the upper frequencies I'm cutting out to balance it the way I want it to be, but it's not always that way. Sometimes you might need to boost. Moving on to the final area, this is around about 7.5 kilohertz, and I would call this our cut or our brightness or sometimes our bite. This area extends from 6 kilohertz up to about 9 kilohertz, and this can be really helpful when you're trying to get your kick to cut through in a busy mixdown, especially if you have a lot of bright and mid-range parts in your mixdown, If it's quite noisy and aggressive, you might need a little bit of this to cut through. If your mix is a bit more chilled, more easygoing, or deeper vibe, you might not need as much of this. Like all of these settings, it's dependent on the kick drum and the song. These are just good places to check. So let's hear this one. Now, real quick, I'll play you each of these 4 kicks that I've got here that I've EQ'd for this loop. Each one is using roughly these same frequencies or areas. Let's hear the difference with each kick with the EQ on and off. Bit knocky, that one, without the adjustment. Wow, that one just loses so much low-end power, and it's all slap without the adjustment. It doesn't have any beef. This one we already did, so finally. And once again, that one's similar, all slap in there. It didn't have any focus in the low end until we adjusted it. So next time your kick feels flat, don't just reach for overdrive or compressors or some other complex plugin. Check these 5 frequencies first. A tiny EQ move in the right spot can completely transform your sound. And if this surprised you, imagine how many other small blind spots might be holding back your mixes. Now that's exactly why I built Pro Sound Secrets. Inside the course, I give you the complete mixdown system that I've used for over 20 years to make tracks sound consistently pro. Now, this is the same system I've used on records signed to Armada, Toolroom, Defected, and to hit #1 on Beatport multiple times. And it's the same framework my students use to finally get their own consistent pro sound too. But here's the thing, we only open enrollment 3 times a year, and spots are extremely limited. I can only take on 10 students at a time because we do weekly group coaching calls, and I want to make sure everybody gets proper feedback and personal attention. That way I can guarantee every student makes real progress. And that's why the course usually sells out fast. If you want a chance to join, the smart move is to get on the free VIP waitlist. That way you'll get first access when enrollment opens. If you wait until after, you could miss out. So, go sign up today at bassclef.com/PSS. And if you're curious about how my whole system actually works, check out this video on screen now. In it, I break down the full framework behind Pro Sound Secrets, and you'll also get a free checklist to start using the method right away. It's the perfect next step if you want a taste of what the course will give you.